Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today we'll Masech the Zevachim Daf Samech Zayin. We are going to begin on Samech Zayin but Aleph. We saw the entire Mishnah, but let's just recap the main piece of the Machlokas, which is found on Samech Vav Beis. Regarding an Olas Ha'of, we know that there are two distinctions between the Olas Ha'of, the bird, as opposed to the Chatas Ha'of. The Olas Ha'of, the only thing that's done is mitzoi, the squeezing. The chatas ha'of, there's hazon mitzoi. The olas ha'of is done on the top of the mizbeach, above the chotasikra, and the chatas ha'of is on the bottom. So the Mishnah said, if you have an olas ha'of, which means therefore it was supposed to be done on the top, and it was also only supposed to be mitzoi, shas salamata, but you did it below, which is kamaisi chatas. So basically you did everything that made it look like a chatas, and it was l'shem chatas. It was lishma, or it was really shlo lishma. It was an oyla. It was an oyla which was l'shem chatas. So we have a machlokas. Rabbi Lezer Omer mu'alan ba, Rabbi Yishua Omer ein mu'alan ba. So there's a machlokas whether there's me'ilah. So Rabbi Lezer makes sense why there's me'ilah, because it's an ola. An oil has no shasa kaisher, and therefore the din is that just because you had these machshavos, why would you possibly say that the me'ilah is removed, right? So me'ilah should stay. Rabbi Yeshua says ein mu'alan ba. And even though the Mishnah went back and forth, we're going to see in the Gemara, the reason is, even though it's an ola, but since you did the maisa of a chatas, and also shem chatas, it's like it took upon itself now the status of a chatas. And we know that a chatas, there's no din me'ilah, because it's something which is fit for the kohanim to eat after everything was done. Okay. So with that said, let's see the Gemara. So, Tanya, Omer Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua. So he said to Rabbi Yeshua, so Rabbi Eliezer, who holds that there should still be me'ilah by an olas oaf, in which was done lomata and kamaisi chatas, it was also a shem chatas. So he says, asham sheshachtu b'safon. If a carbon asham, which is kachi kadashim, it was shechted in the safon, which is the way it was supposed to be done. However, it was done l'shem shlomim. It wasn't for the right reason, because it was done shlo l'shma for a shlomim. That will be a chichel, that will disprove you. Why? Sheshina as shemai, that you changed its name, that basically instead of it being shem asham, it was a shlomim, umoalin boy, and there's a din me'ilah in this situation. So v'afatal tetama al ha'oila. Don't be surprised when it comes to an oila, an oil sa'of, shafal pi sheshina shema, even though you change its name, shimaluba, that there should still be a din me'ilah on it. So Melo Rabbi Yeshua lo. Imamarti ba'asham. If you want to compare it to an asham, you can't, because im shina shemo. If you changed its name to a shlomim, lo shinas min kaimai. But in that case, the place wasn't deviated. You did it in the right place in the north. So because of that, we say that it's still there's a din me'il on it. In our case, you did everything wrong. Not only did you have a l'shem chatas, but it was also ma'isa chatas that you did it on the bottom, below the chatasikra. So Rabbi Lezer, okay, ashim sheshachta b'darom l'shem shalom yochicha. Okay, I understand. You said that's a problem because it was the same place. Now I'll deviate from the proper place. An asham, which is kachi kadashim, is supposed to be done in the north. So let's say it was done in the south. It was also l'shem shlomim yochiach. So what happened? It's a carbon in which you did a shinoi in the maisa, and it was also shlo shema. Sheshina shema v'shina es mekaimo u'moalan bo. Still didn't me'ilah. So havatal tetama. Don't be so shocked that an oil, when it comes to also should be the same thing. Shall be sheshina es shema v'shina es mekaima, that you had a different, it was Shlo Shma L'Shem Chatas and Maisa Chatas, Moalin Ba, so there's still a Din Me'ila. So Amar Rabbi Yeshua lo. Imam Marta Ba'ashim Shino Eshema B'Shino Esmin Kaimo. So okay, fine. You're talking about the case where it was done in the south and it was also L'Shem Shalomim. Nonetheless, there's a din that you still are. There's a din, still a din Me'ila. V'lo Shinas Maisav. But over there, you are not Mashana in the actual action. Taimer Ba'oila Shishina Eshema the Es Ma'aseha the Shinas Min Kaima. Everything was done, right? There was not just the wrong action, there was a wrong machshava, there was a wrong place, and also the wrong action. Because as we said, there's a difference between oyos of and a chatas of. Let's see if Rashi says over here. Not really. It says also of kaimer shenechlu ba the ilba is behema sheshinable l'shem chatas. Okay, so Amar Rabba v'neimule ashim sheshakta b'daram. So why doesn't he go back to him and say like this? It was the Elisam and ashim sheshakta b'daram, right? So your shinas ben kaimo. It was l'shem shlomim, and it was also shlo l'shma b'shinui balam sheshinu eshemo the shinas ben kaimo b'shinas masav. So let's say it's a totally different order and everything. Now, midaloi kaimerle hachi. So why didn't he bring that down as a kasha? So Shema Mina must be Nochas Rabbi Eliezer Tamei Rabbi Yeshua. Then he kind of understood the shita. Yomi Rabbi Barabba Omer Haya Rabbi Yeshua Olasav Shasal. He understood that now they have an Olasav that was done lamata, like a chatas of kamaisa chatas, right? And it was below the chatas sikra, and it was a shem chatas kivan shemot basiman echad. Once you did malika on one simon, so we said an olosov has to be yavdil. You cut both sim on them. When it comes to a chatas ov, you cut only one simon. So when you only cut one simon, so that demonstrates it as a chatas ov. So nim sheches v'nasis chatas ov. So now it basically just takes upon itself the status now as a chatas ov. And the chatas ov, there's no din me'ila, and that's the reason. So hihachi, 1 second, if that's the case, how about this way? Chatas ov nami, let's say you did everything backwards the other way around though, that you had a chatas ov, shiyasa lamala, and it was supposed to be done below, but instead it was done above, kamaisa oila. Machim molik basim echad, when you do malika of one of the simanim, timashech v'tabi olos ov. Why don't we say that it becomes an olos ov? The chitem hachinami. Okay, maybe that's true. So if just like an olos ov, if you do everything like a chatas, it becomes a chatas ov. So maybe a chatas ov, if you do everything like an olos ov, it becomes an olos ov. It's not true. The chitem hachinami. Yom Rabbi Yochanan Mishem Rabbi Benah kachaya hatzah shel mishnah. My love, kachi hatzah. Maybe this is what it's. This is like the compromise, if you will, as though to say that this is like specifically in this situation, not the other way around. My love, kachi hatzah v'suloi, right? Not anything else. So lokach hatzah shel kula mishnah. Lokach hatzah shel kula mishnah. Okay. Rav Ashi Omer. So again, why would you say, according to the shita, that if it's an oilos if you do everything like a chatas, it becomes a chatas? So we understand that because oilos shiasol amata kamaisa chatas shem chatas kivan deha hachshira b'siman echad. Once you cut one siman, that takes upon itself like a chatas because a chatas ov is lo yavdil. V'lo hechshira b'shnei simanim. V'ha hechshira b'shnei simanim. And when it comes to an also, if you kasher it with 2 simanim. V'oyos of lamata, when it comes to an also of lamata leisa. Kivan demok b'siman echad, because once you cut one siman, nimshechas v'nasas chatas of. right? You basically made it into a chatas ha'of. So, because a chatas ha'of is only one, an olas ha'of is two. So if you only cut one siman, that doesn't necessarily mean that it becomes an olas ha'of, right? Because cutting one siman, that's what you do by a chatas ha'of. But if for whatever reason you have the olas ha'of and you only cut one siman, that is what is done by a chatas ha'of, so therefore it becomes like a chatas. V'nasis chatas ha'of. Ella chatas ha'of kivandem mar malika b'chol makim sheira. It can be done anywhere. So mechim molik ba siman echad. When you do malika on one siman, ifsala, it can become pasul. Ki hader molik beidach siman. When you cut the second siman, heichi memshacha. How could that work? Gabi olos ha'of. And therefore, becomes an olos ha'of. So to become an olos ha'of. So in other words, a chatas ha'of cannot become an olos ha'of. However, the other way around, it can. All right, let's see. Maybe a Rashi over here. Rashi amir oilam lo polig v'lo tiksha debish lama olos ha'of. She also mata. You did everything like a chatas ha'of. Kivan the chatas techshir b'siman echad. Right, a chatas ha'of, one siman kashes it. The gomer vodasa, and the avodah is like done. Mimahir lahashlim kodem shachol al zu shel oila psula. V'zuhi achshera. An oil is only b'shnei simanim. Lafika siman rishon eno paisel ba mishum asiyas mata. So the first cutting is not going to passel it from doing on the bottom, because the olos ha'of is supposed to be cut with two. So the fact that you did it on the bottom, it's not a problem if you only did one siman, because you had to actually do two. The olos ha'of lamata leisa v'yesh kan shinoi ma'isa oila v'heker. Okay. V'kivan shemach was siman echad v'yedain lo chol Hashem psul oila chol Hashem chatas kshera. Okay. All right. So that's the svara to be machalik. Fine. Gufa. Let's get back to what we said before. Rabbi Rabbi Yeshua. Even also, if they did everything like a chatas, kamasa chatas or shem chatas, kivan shemok b'siman echad. Once you did one cutting, nimshechas v'nasis chatas o. So it now takes upon itself the status of a chatas ha'oif. So before we turn the daf, let's see, make sure I did question 6. Ma'u ha'mikru ba'im Rabbi Yeshua de'oilu nefeches lios chatas. We said it's an olos ha'of, and basically you did everything like a chatas ha'of that you did at lamata, and it was shul shma. So he answers, oh, shiasul lamata k'masa chatas, or shem chatas. Okay. All right. Doesn't look like there's going to be another question in sight over here. That sounds like it's a machlokes, but what does Tez Zayin say? Im shina b'malika. Did I do this already? 15, yeah, 16, T16 I did. So that's samach vav with base. So this is if you do an oyas of l'shem and there was l'shem chatas, so it's a machlokes if you're mishana in the malika between Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua. However, your shina b'mitzoi that you squeeze below, everyone holds there will be me'ilah. Okay. Let's see if so this actually we should see your Zion. So question 17 as well. So this is what it said over here. Asham. Let's find this. Lo. Im amarta ba'asham. Okay. She'im shino es shemoy b'lo es mekaimo. Terma ba'oyla sheshina es shema. The shina es mekaima. Actually, there's more than that. Timer ba'oyla. This is it. Timer ba'oyla sheshina es shema. The es maseha Beshina es mikaima. That's what it's looking for. This is TA 17. So let's mark this down. TA 17. So what did you do? You changed, it was L'Shem Chatos. You did Malika with one siman, which is the Maisa, right? You only did one siman, okay? So therefore that shows that was like a Chatos. And also, it was Mimkaima that was done below, which is supposed to have been above. And then the question is by Behema, we find by an Asham Sheshachtu B'darom B'shinoi Balim L'Shem Shlomim, right? But we didn't ask this question. We didn't, but that's what it said. An Asham which was Shechted B'darom, wrong place, L'Shem Shlomim, and B'shinoi Balim. Okay, so in that case, it's Shino as Shemoi, B'Shino as Minkaima, Shemo as Maisav. Okay, that was TA 17. Same thing as TB 20. So let's just get this down. This is what I wrote. Shinoi Hashem shel carbon. Okay. Shinoi Hashem. Let's say I write Shalo Lishma. Shalo Lishma was because it was L'Shem Chatos. Shinoi Maisa. In other words, Siman Echad. Shinoi Min Koimai Lamata. Begamba behema imashana Hashem shel carbon, which is l'shem shlomim, and umaiso avoda mimkoimo was darom, and avoda was shinui balim. Okay, that's what we'd be looking for. That's TB 20. Okay. All right, let's now we have that down. Let's continue. So again, Kufa Omer Rabbi Arad Barabba Omer Haya Rabbi Yeshua Oil So Shiasal Mata. It was everything was done below. It was Kamaisa Chatas, just like a Chatas, L'Shem Chatas. It was one siman and it was L'Shma for a Chatas. Kivan Shemot B'Siman Echad. Once you only did the one siman, Nimshechas V'Nasas Chatas O. So it has the status of a Chatas Off as we continue to Samach Zayin Medbeis. Toshma. Chatas Lazu V'Oy Lazu. So this is all in Masechtas Kinim, as Rashi points out. So what happened, says Rashi, Rachel Shahisa Sricha Chatas Leidasa. So you have a woman, Rachel, and she needed to be able to give a bird offering because she gave birth. And she was obligated to bring a chatas. And the olah sakfar karva. She already brought her olah before. So only she has, a woman has to bring a chatas and an olah, bird offering. But she already brought the olah. So only she has a chatas left. So you have one woman that has to bring a chatas, one woman has left to bring an olah. And each one has respective birds. V'lochu kain. Be'iruv, they bought this nest, this little cage, and the birds were mixed together. The couple prayed the achas l'chatas Rachel, prayed the achas l'oyos leia v'nosam l'kayin. So he gave that to the kayin. Now the question is, which bird is a chatas, which one is an oila? So that's the question. So chatas and oila zu. So also shtein l'ma'ala. So let's say he put did the avodah of both of them above, which is what you're supposed to do for an oil sa'ov. So mechsa kosher, mechsa apostle. So one of them, we say half is kosher, half is apostle, because the one which is, we don't know which one it was, but the oil is kosher and the chatas is apostle. So the woman who had to have an ola done, she's definitely fine. Okay, shtein lomata, mechsa kosher, mechsa apostle. And if it was all done, both birds, the avodah was done on the bottom, so which is the way a chatas ov is supposed to be done. So then the woman who had to bring the chatas ov, she's fine, but then the other woman has an issue. Achasol and achasol mata, this is where it becomes problematic. Either both of them could have been done at the right place, or both of them were done in the wrong place. We don't know. So shnei psulos. As we err on the side of caution, we say sha'ani oimer. What do we say? Shani oimer, I will say that chatas karvul ma'ala v'oila karvul mata. maybe the chatos was brought above and the oil was brought below, which is wrong. And therefore, because of we just say we're going to err inside of caution, say they're both possible. Now, nehi nami the oil karvel mata. Okay, fine. So let's say that the oil was the one which it was really supposed to be brought above, but instead the oil sa'ov was brought below. But didn't we say that an oil sa'ov that was brought below and it's l'shem chatos, that should therefore work, right? Well, he said there was no din me'il on it. So the Gemara asks, "Nehi the oil karvel mata timoshav dehavi chatas ha'of," right? So the Gemara answers, "Emider Rabbi Yeshua b'chad gavra." It's only one person, but Trey Gavri here we're talking about two women. So in this situation, Miyamar, does he say that? So maybe he'll say this with one person, not when there's two people involved. Okay, Tashma. So now we have another mission in Masechtas Kinim. Chatas v'oila. So in this case, you have a chatas bird and an oila bird, the stuma mufareshas. So in this case, there are 6 birds in total, okay? Right? So in one, you have a chatas and an oila. In the second one is stam, and one is mifareshas. So one was specified, one the middle one, let's say the middle 2 birds, we didn't say anything. So asa kul and lamala, let's say all 6 birds were put up top. So we say mexikash and mexapuzzle. Because again, if there's definitely, let's say 3 women, and there's 6 birds, so 3 of them are as a chatas, 3 of them an ola. So in that situation, we'll just say half is good, half is not. Kul and lamata, if they're all brought below, again, mexikash and mexapuzzle. Now this is where it becomes problematic. Let's say chetz l'mal v'chetz l'mata enuk shera el stuma. Only the ones which were stumim, which we didn't really specify, so those will be okay because you didn't really designate them as anything at that time, and therefore because of that, at least those will work. However, not anything else. U'mischalekas b'nehen. However, the ones that were specified, because again, what was the chatas one old? We don't know because they all got mixed up. So, again, same caution. He now be the oil of karmelamata. I understand. If let's say the oil was brought below, which was not supposed to be done, because that's l'shem chatas. So still, as we said before, timashach and havi chatas off. Right, so at least have the status like a chatas like we said, that there's no din me'ila in that case. So maybe we just don't hold like him. He doesn't hold like this. A woman who says, "Hari like Cain, this is my bird's nest. Im elid, and I give birth to a zachar. Im elid zachar. So yolda zachar mevia shtekinim. Then she brings 2 birds. Achas l'nedara." One for her neder, ve'achas l'chavas, one for obligation. This nasin l'kayin is given to a kayin. Hakayin tzarich la'asaisin sholosh l'mala ve'achas l'mata. 3 above and 1 below. Lo asakain el asa shtayim l'mala ve'shtayim l'mata. V'nimloich let's say she didn't change her mind. Did bring another one. Okay. Pirshin Nidara Srichel Havi Od Gimel Pridim. There's another 3 Pridim which needs to be brought. Min Echad. Beis Minim, and from 2 Minim Tavi Dalid bring 4. Kavan Nidara. Let's say the neder was set. And all this, we're going to end up showing that this is like his shita. Sricha shetavi oin chamish preidin. Bring another 5 birds. L'malam mimenachad u'bebeis minim tavi sheish. This nasin l'kayin is given to the kayin. Ve'enu yodas ma nasno, what was given. So halacha kayin, the kayin should go. V'yasa ve'enu yodea ma'asa. Sricha dal preidin l'nedar. I need 4 from the dead. V'shtayim l'chavasa and 2 for the chayiv. V'chatas achas and 1 chatas. Benazei Omer Beis Chatais. And here we go. Omer Rabbi Yoshua, this is why we're bringing this whole thing down. Rabbi Yoshua says, Zehu She'omru Keshuchai Koyol Echel Shumes Koyol Zayin. So anyway, That's the kasha. We clearly see that Rabbi Yeshua gets himself involved over here. So the question is, Rabbi Yeshua already said that if it's an ola and you do everything l'shem chatos, that at least it takes upon itself the status of a chatos. So why doesn't he say that here? The answer is, this is the main answer. The only time he says this, that it's considered l'shem chatos, is that there's no longer din me'ila on it. However, to say that now that you've fulfilled your obligation, that far he doesn't go. And therefore, because of that, when it comes to these birds, if they're all mixed up, then you have to bring more birds, or she's not yotze. What do you mean? It was an oil and it was done l'shem chatos. It doesn't matter. That may help for me'ila to be removed. That doesn't help for the chayv. Okay, we're going to stop there. Obviously, we could have spent, there's a lot of Rashis on this, analyzing this Mishnah. But again, the purpose of this Mishnah was just to demonstrate that, in fact, Rabbi Yeshua is the author of these Mishnayos. Not that we don't hold like him. We see clearly that he's even mentioned in this Mishnah, so it must be he holds that it's not acceptable to just say, oh, it was done l'shem chatos, so you don't have to bring it, because it only means me'ilah. This is what question 7 says. It's like a guaranteed question. So, Le'inyan me'ilah, it's considered to be like a chatos, right? There's no din me'ilah. However, shetalu l'chayvus chatos la'omar. That much we're not going to say. We're not going to say that you've fulfilled your obligation. Okay. And that would have been a great question. It's not on TA 18. Let's see, TB 21. When in ma mahani hashinoi, when in ma loy mahani. So there, Itaka does give us that same question, at least for TB 21. Let's see what I wrote. Mahani deshuv in me'ilah. Avum satas kinim loindim she'in oilin l'shem chayvim v'tzarich l'havi carbon acher. Adkan.